So I appreciate that, and that's a good reminder. We'll do roll real quick. Simon's sitting in for Hannah. Andrew is not here. I think you just said Simon, right?
Yeah.
Davy's here representing the Classified Union rep. Classified Senate is Gary's representing Denise. Tom is here for the faculty. Danny is here for the faculty. Pinella is in class but will be here, I believe. John is here from Management Association. Kent is not here.
Yes.
Kent is here. Hey Kent, how are you? Good to see you. Sorry. Dr. Bell is out. Anthony here is a rep, Dwayne's here is a rep, and Marie is on vacation. So it's a good house, and I want to introduce to those of you who don't know, Joe Simonesci, who is our Executive Director for Business Services. And Susan Wagner is here today. Joe and Susan are going to do a presentation a little bit later. All right, so thank you for reminding me of that, Simon. Now, public comments. Is there any member of the public who wants to... You're not a member of the public, but you can talk anyway. Go ahead.
I'm just curious as why we are advertising 5 executive secretaries.
So that's a question of for the public, huh?
Yeah. There's a union question, realistically.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give the general answer for now, Dave, and that is that we are advertising for many positions on campus right now on the basis of jobs that need to be filled for the purposes of college operations, and these positions have been budgeted in one form or another. So these are deemed to be needed jobs. I will also say that we're advertising for five positions. We may not fill all 5 of them at this moment, but these are positions that we're at. In fact, Terry Hampton, our Executive Director of Human Resources, provided a list of all of the positions that are being advertised right now, and there's really quite a number of them. I'm trying to remember how many, but there's got to be at least 15 or more that are out there right now in one capacity, certificated and classified. As well as a painter, I might add, for facility services. So we need staff. If Denise were here, she would be saying that because she said it in college council yesterday. Right?
Can I ask, because I noticed that as well, and I noticed that the salary range was 11% more for the executive assistant to the president than currently, and the other 4 were about 31% more. If you look at the pay scales and where they normally start for secretaries too, I mean for administrative assistants.
Well, there's but one classification for executive assistant. So whatever the salary range is for the executive assistant position, that's the salary range for those positions that are being advertised.
No, there's I think it's step 49.
Well, what we have a intermediate, we have clerk, intermediate clerk, secretary 1, secretary 2, secretary 3, admin assistant 1, admin assistant 2, and executive assistant. So we have that career ladder, all those positions. So
Is this on the confidential or on the classified?
These are the positions that are both within issue CFT as well as confidential.
Because that's not what's posted online right now, and it's not.
Well, those are the positions that we have in the ladder of the clerical support positions at the moment.
Okay, just in general, are what they're offering as salaries higher than they currently are?
Well,
not that way.
What I believe I understand to be the case is that we have an executive assistant position that is flown, and that is in our salary schedule at a certain rate, and that we are at the moment we are flying 5 of those positions at the moment. I mean, we are flying 5 of those positions. Again, whether we fill them all or not remains to be seen, but that's what we're flying right now.
Do we currently have an executive assistant, somebody that has that title on the payroll of the college right now?
That we do not.
So I guess I'm a little confused about the statement of they're paid above what is
Okay,
current.
there's a, you know, I didn't bring it with me because I didn't know we were going to have this discussion.
Well, we shouldn't be having this discussion right now, frankly.
But there is a pay scale that lists at step 55 the executive assistant to the president, and then at step 49 is the executive assistants to the vice presidents. Okay, it actually says that on there. It's on the website.
An executive
right now.
assistant or an administrative assistant?
Sorry, administrative
There you
assistant.
go.
Maybe
That's the
what it
difference.
says.
That's the difference.
Well, I'd have to check that, but anyway.
That's
okay.
if that is the case, which I believe it is, that's the difference. These are not administrative. That career ladder thing I talked to you about, this is not the administrative assistant. It is the executive assistant.
So, but those positions then weren't currently. So those are new positions because there weren't those positions before.
Well, there is a classification of executive assistant on the books, and these positions are for the superintendent president, the 2 assistant superintendents, the vice president of technology, and the general counsel.
Right.
Now, that's what they're for. Again, whether we fill them all or not, because of some things, who knows? But that's why we did it that way. It was deemed that it was appropriate that that level of administration, based upon confidentiality, responsibility ratios, workload, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that was the appropriate level to classify the support for those positions.
But how are those different? Aren't there people in those? Are there people in those positions right now?
There are people who are applying for these jobs.
Well, no, I know, but right now. So is this a new? These are new positions.
These are new positions.
So people that are working for instance, Dr. Cable, Mr. Cable, you have an administrative assistant.
Correct.
Okay, Danny, I'm gonna,
Okay.
if you don't mind, because
All right.
this gets into issues far beyond the purview of this group at this point in time, and we're not,
Okay.
we can't go there right now because we don't know where we're going on that topic. All right, Dave, would you like to hijack the meeting with another question, or how would you like to do it?
That's fine, but I thought this was the budget committee, and that executive committee, I would think, would be under a budgetary item.
It would be, but it probably would have come in the context of it. It doesn't, I was being facetious, so certainly any questions are fine.
Well, my suggestion would be on that order that if anything is not really, it can be on a future agenda or an agenda discussion. Let's make a note of it. I think it's a valid conversation, and then let's just move on with.
Right. Well, what I believe what we'll do is, and Mary, we'll just kind of do this because it's a Brown Act committee. We've got to basically we've got to agendize items. So there's only so far you can go on these public comment things.
Yeah. So in fact, I'd just like to say that rather than, I don't know if we would need to agendize this. I think that what's happening right now is basically a request for information about who is currently in positions, or what positions currently exist as opposed to what's being advertised. So perhaps we could, via email, receive that information. And then if someone deems that we need to come back and discuss it at that point, once we've got the information, then we can put it on an agenda.
Right, and I think that we have the future agenda items there for a reason. And so when we get to that point, we could certainly talk about agendizing things.
Personally, I'd rather agendize it, and then if you send us the information, and if it satisfies everything, we can come to the meeting and say, you know what, I'm satisfied, we're good.
So, exactly. So hold the thought until we get the future agenda items. And that's probably where this would have come up, because I think the idea of that item, for me it would have been other topics, whatever. But the point being is that that's what future agenda items are for, I think, from a Brown Act point of view. Okay, so moving that along here, there are two presentations that we're going to have today, and I want to remind the group that when we last met, as we think about the future of the Budget and Resource Allocation Committee, and we think about how we want to work to more closely align the work of this committee with the planning aspects of the institution, that it was felt that it would be good to begin to educate the committee members to not only our budgeting process, but to some of the critical planning aspects, strategic planning aspects of the institution, tied to the Educational Master Plan, tied to our Board of Trustees goals, etc. So in that regard, in the last 2 weeks, there has been a lot of activity as a result of the passage of Proposition 30. And there's good budget news, which I will share at the appropriate time a little later in the meeting. And in relation to that good budget news, there is a need to basically address a workload increase that was given back to us as a result of Prop 30. And without getting too deep into the weeds here, our FTES was reduced by 1,250 to 1,350 FTES, something in that range, as a result of the state's dire budget situation. Prop 30 passed, and the state chancellor's office has given that FTS back to our college, representing roughly $6.7 million. The catch to that, which was news to the CEOs, CBOs, and a whole lot of folks, was brought to our attention a week ago last Friday when it was announced by the state chancellor's office and by the governor that all that FTS would be recovered by the community colleges as long as it was recovered within the current fiscal year, 12-13. In other words, there was a thought that because of the lateness of this decision being made and when that money was finally going to come to us, that they would allow us to make up that workload, for example, the balance of 12-13 as much as you could, and then over 13-14, and maybe even beyond that. But because of the pledge that the governor, if you will, because he put a lot of pressure on the chancellor's office and others to do this, because of the pledge that was made to the voters that if you vote for Prop 30, that will result in more classes and more access for students. If you want that money, then you have to offer those courses, those sections, in the current fiscal year, which ends June 30th of 2013. So for PCC, as a plan that, I won't steal his thunder, but there's a certain number of sections now that we will be adding back into the spring and the summer in order to not only capture that 1,250 to 1,350 FTES, but also to make up for roughly 700 FTES, and each one of those FTES, I will say, is worth $4,600, give or take, per FTES.
How many do we have to make up? Sorry, sir.
We had to make up 700.
It's
Well,
on
it's
the
on the
story.
chart. It's on the chart. That's
Okay,
right.
okay.
So it's on the chart.
They're going to tell us a story in a second. And that'll be there. It'll be good.
We're going to make it all. We're going to make it up. And the point is that we have to do a lot in order to recapture the lost FTES, and they're going to explain. I forgot it's on the chart, right? The lost FTES and why. We then have to take advantage of the workload increase. That's in the chart as well, or in the PowerPoint. And then we have growth opportunities that may not be spelled out specifically in the presentation, actually. But there's growth opportunities of an additional $852,000. All right? So the bottom line to all this is that's what this presentation is about to show everybody right now. And it's going to be by Cynthia.
So we're doing the...
We're going to do the EMP first, and then we'll get into the budget, because a lot of people won't care about the budget 101.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm glad to be here to present to you our plan for increasing the number of classes we're going to offer students. As a counselor and the dean of counseling, this is always the best kind of news, right? When we can give students the classes they need. So this PowerPoint information was provided by Crystal Kohlross. She's off campus at this point at a conference. And so I'm going to present you the data. So our challenge is to earn our full apportionment for this fiscal year, 2012-13. Our funded enrollment goal is 19,900 full-time equivalent students. Now this information comes to us from the Chancellor's Office, who gathers these enrollment reports from all the 112 community colleges in the state. What they do is they'll calculate all the data given to them by the colleges, and then they'll tell us what our number is. Right now, based on P2 data, this is our best estimate. The Chancellor's Office is still calculating the figures, and Crystal has been calling them to try and get the exact number, but this is our best estimate at this point.
And P2 data is period 2, reporting period 2 out of a total of 4.
So, what have we earned thus far? 8,503. This is the FTES we generated in summer, and that's what we earned in fall. So if we take that number and we subtract it from 19,000, this is our goal for spring and summer, 11,396.78 FTES. That's what we should be aiming for. So
Just a
how
question
do you
real
reach?
quick. I'm
Yes.
sorry. With the summer, so that's something that we have to capture before June 30th, correct?
Right.
So not the second summer, but
Well, we'll
As
talk
long as-
about that
yeah,
in the
we'll get into
presentation.
details.
They'll talk about it.
But number of students enrolled per section, that also helps us achieve our FTES. Historically, we have generated 3.9 FTES per section, and how you achieve that is the number of students enrolled in each section. So historically, we were at 30 to 31 students per section, which generates 3.9 FTES. This year, we had 29 students enrolled per section, which lowered our FTES. And there's a number of reasons. We had a decreased head count this fall. We had 3,000 less students here than in the past. It's most likely because people were discouraged from coming back to school, since it, you know, the story that was in the press was it was really difficult to get classes. We also offered fewer LGIs and lower normal closing numbers on courses, so we had less students enrolled per section. It's always important to, for us to look to see where were our decreases in our enrollment. Our largest decrease was in first-time transfers. These are students who transfer in from other community colleges, ELAC, Glendale, Citrus, the rest. We had a 2.1% decrease. We also had a 1% decrease in first-time freshmen and then returning PCC students. But I always like a bright note. We had a 5% increase in our own retention rate of our own PCC students, which is excellent. So what's our proposed plan? Logically, you could see we need to increase our FTES we generate per section, and then we need to add more sections. We need to add 600 sections, and here is why we need to add 600. If we are going to recoup our 3,000 head count, we could say, well, we'll generate 3.9 FTES per section. And then we would only need to add 529 sections. But there's no guarantee at this point that we will attract 3,000 new people to attend PCC, or returners or transference. So if we aim for this point here, to generate 3.7 to 3.8 FTES per section, we would only need to add between 606 to 687 sections. So what are those sections going to consist of? This spring, we've added, and we will continue to add up to 80 sections. These sections are the classes students need. What we've been doing in counseling, I described to many of you in our town hall when we were discussing the calendar change. And that's, students were able to submit a graduation petition request. We reviewed their files. We let them know which classes they needed to graduate. Some students were not ready to graduate. They needed more requirements. So we created a list, and those list of classes are the ones that are being added. We also increased LGIs. We restored NCNs, and so we've been able to capture some of our FTES back. And here you'll see the number of seats. But when we total it up, we've added 5,130 seats to spring. So we're really excited about that. And students are really happy about it, of course. So we also have some next steps. Many of the sections that we've added, at this point, 20 of them are Friday and Saturday classes, either one or on one day. And then I'm in the process of developing a plan to offer the Introduction to College course at the local high schools. So I plan on doing at least 13, maybe 15 classes in spring, at the high schools for seniors to get them their first step to enrolling at PCC for the fall. That way we cultivate a richer relationship with students, so we're not frantically trying to give them all the information they need in a 2-hour orientation. So I'm really looking forward to trying that out. And then we have a DE plan, which Matt will tell you about.
I've been working with Leslie Tirapelle and our new instructional designer to develop a plan, and we are awaiting approval, but it looks positive, and we expect to offer 45 new distance education courses as late start courses in the spring that would start in March and run 8 weeks.
Yeah, and I think that will really, answer the needs of those returning students that you noticed. We've experienced a decline in our population. Think about returning students. They are students who had experience. They are students probably who are adults. And so this online, DE classes, this may be really helpful for these students to attract them back to PCC. And that's really what we want, is to help people to achieve their goal. I think that's it.
That went by very fast, but I was trying to figure it out. And you're saying we have 3,000 fewer students, new students.
Oh, just 3,000 fewer students, period.
Okay, 3,000 fewer students, but then you were also talking about 29 students per course, as opposed to we used to have 31 or something?
Yes.
So what do we need more students for if the same students we have just would fill more classes? Does that make sense?
We could achieve efficiency that way if we had more students taking more classes.
Back that slide.
That really could happen.
Yeah, if you look at that slide, the higher the percentage, 3.9, so it's average FTES per section that's generated. When you put 30 students, 30 to 31 students in a class, you pump up the average FTES to 3.9, so it's quote-unquote more efficient. When you drop to 29, there's a precipitous drop, if you will, and so you're not as efficient. So for the same cost, you're generating less revenue.
But John,
So the more people you can get in within reason, the more efficiency, the greater the amount of income at the same expense level.
The reason why we mentioned 3,000 less students is because it could have also been one of the contributing factors to the reason why we achieve less FTES per section. We have less physical students to draw from.
If we had more students, the chances are we'd fill our classes in a larger manner.
Possibly, yeah.
Who decided what classes to offer for spring, and what was the process for that, and who is deciding what's going to be offered in the summer?
Well, I'd like to say the students decided which classes to add in the spring because it's coming directly from what their needs are for graduation. So the process was this. On the counseling website, there is a link called graduation. So you click on that, and then a student can submit their request for their file to be reviewed for graduation.
Okay.
Once we get the list, I think for fall we had 548 students submit a request for us to review their record. Of those 548 students, 400 were eligible for a degree. The rest of the students were not. And then we were also intaking questions from the calendar hotline email address. And so between those two sources, we were able to help students get into the last 3 to 6 requirements they need to graduate by summer 2013. So the 80 classes that we're adding in spring are directly, they're a result of the courses students need to graduate.
Okay, and so counseling came up with that list and said
Yes.
this is what we're offering?
Yes.
Okay, and then for summer, it's based on the same kind of thing?
Same methodology, except for we'll have a larger pool of students informing our needs.
Okay, so like, for example, we, for years in the nursing, we've offered the Certified Nursing Assistant Program. Okay, that was, the dean canceled it last year. So because it's not required for graduation, we probably won't get that back, or it does award a certificate.
Let me take a quick shot at this, and then maybe Matt can say a few words. The other part of the presentation that they have, which they're not going to do today, but it's a very important part of our Brac discussion, probably at the next meeting, is a strategic enrollment management approach to how we schedule classes. And there's a very well thought out presentation. There's a new approach to strategic enrollment management that we are going to be adopting, which would respond very effectively to your question in terms of why perhaps we do need to bring back the courses for CNA. Do you want to?
Sure, I would say that strategic enrollment management is data-informed enrollment management that's driven by students attaining their goals. And what you do is you look at what is the student goal, whether it be an AAT, an AST, a CTE certificate, and you create pathways of scheduled courses for the students to get full-time schedules to move them towards that goal. And then section allocation happens to create those pathways, and students are guaranteed slots if they go full-time so that they can complete in a timely manner.
Okay, so for example, CNA, it's a 6-week course. You really only have to be 16 years old. You don't have to be a high school graduate. They get done, they take the state exam, and then they get a job working in a nursing home. Those students, a lot of them, it's not like they're here taking English and math. So how would they even be in the system?
Because it's a certificate, and it's a job.
Exactly. And I would say I'm going to answer your question, but I'm also going to say that like we're getting into probably a little too specific for this point. But if that is a defined pathway that leads to a student goal, we would say how many students want to attain that goal, and maybe you say we think we can support 15 a year, right, or 20 a year. So then that would support
36. Okay.
Or 36. So that's going to say we need a certain number of sections based on, the closing limits of the courses. Then we have to get those students into those courses so they can complete in a certain amount of time, rather than fighting to get into the courses with students who are just enrolling to meet the financial aid minimum.
Yeah. So I think Simon, you have a question.
Yeah. When we say that on average the average student section dropped to 29, can we talk a little bit about that? Because what it seems like, and I'm sure this isn't the case, but what it seems like on first glance is that meant that there was a seat open on average in classes available, which, as we know, isn't really the case. So how did that really work out?
Yeah, I don't think that is the case.
Right.
I think because of those 3 factors, the less head count, that we offered less LGI, and that our normal closing numbers were lower, I think all of that combined to make an average of 29 students per section. It's not actually a snapshot of the per section, that there was 1 seat available in every class.
Right. So to clarify, the difference is we, through the C&I process, about a year ago, campus-wide, we looked at what our average classroom enrollment was, and some divisions, departments and divisions, although not all, said based on what is necessary to teach our classes well, we would like to drop our normal enrollment numbers, right? And so for some classes, math chose not to do that. They kept their normal closing numbers. Cool. But for some other departments, they did not. So you're going to see that now, because we're like, in one class last year, you could have 35 people in the class. Maybe it went down to 30.
So what I'm hearing is that even if we had the increased head count, because of the NCN change, we would not necessarily have been able to give them sections anyway.
Well,
and just to get my point, the NCN conversation is kind of outside of our realm. So
Right.
how are we going to? What is the plan to address that conversation when that happens?
The NCN resulted in a loss of about 700 FTEs. Okay, so that's part of what we are recovering right now in this plan, is that loss. An operational memoranda went out to all the division deans to basically reinstate the NCNs that were in effect in September of 11. And the reason is because we have this urgent need to recapture this FTS. Plus, the primary reason is that was supposed to be a negotiated item between the district and the FA. It was supposed to go from the academic senate back to the negotiating table. It never got to the negotiating table. So in reality, they shouldn't have been dropped in the first place, at least from that step. It was a step that was missed, and there's reasons
So,
for it.
more
We're not
seats.
going to get into those reasons here, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
The point is that we now have to go back to where they were because it wasn't negotiated. And that's all that I think we need to say on that topic and should say on that topic right now.
And so all I
But
care
beyond
about
that,
is
we
more
need to
seats.
recover those FTEs.
I think Anthony, you had a question? Yes.
And-
Yeah, some of the other colleges were, but what they would do is put in a waiting,
Wait list.
wait list. And once that wait list got to be over 15, they would just add another class.
Yeah.
And not, you know, in everything, because only the ones that are required for, to graduate,
Yeah.
like English or math or science.
Yeah.
But we don't do that here, do we?
Well, we will when we have a Lancer Point in place. We will be able to do some of those technological responses. Instead of using manual counts of what students need, we will have DegreeWorks in place, which will be able to just tell us very quickly in a snapshot report, what do students need? Let's schedule that. If there are wait lists, and they're unduplicated wait lists, so a student couldn't be on, you know, 2 same math classes wait lists, then we would be able to take those wait lists and say, hey, we have a section for you. So in the future, this will be much easier to do.
The other thing I have is that I've heard a lot of students talking, and they said that the second day the class was open, it's already filled.
Yeah, we do have
And there's nothing, you know, and they need these classes, so, you know, you have ways of getting classes for these students, correct?
We
Right
do.
now, you're doing it manually. You guys
Manually.
monitor these, and these were some of the core sections that were added.
Yeah, so students can email on the counseling website, there's the graduation link, and then also the calendar hotline. And then in a couple of days, we're gonna have on the home page a button called the Graduation Initiative. And if students want to tell us what their last classes are that they need, they can let us know, and then we'll verify it and get them those classes.
Okay, how are you communicating that to the students?
It'll be on the home page of the website, and
Just
it'll
like
go on
that,
all of
that's
our
right.
social media, Facebook, Twitter. We'll work with associated students.
I'm going to comment on something Bob said. He said you want to get as many students in as you can reasonably can. And the school spent a year-long process trying to determine what reasonable number was, and a lot of the divisions said, for pedagogical reasons, to ensure better student success, we need this number. And now we're being told, well, that's going out the window. Couldn't we keep those NCNs and just increase the number of sections that we're offering and get the numbers up that way?
Well, that's a good point. I think that is possible. However, if you go back to the previous slide, let's see,
One more.
the next slide. Back. Keep going, this one. So here's the difference, Dan. To fund 772 sections, the average cost, and this is important for Brac to know, is $5,500 per section. That's the average cost. So if you achieve less FTES per section, you have to pay to have more sections. If you're more efficient and you have 30 students in a class, let's say, and you achieve 3.9, you fund 529 students. You fund 529 sections. So Brac, you want to know the basic formula. It's 5,500 per section. What's the FTES generated? And you have to help make the decision for the college. Do you want to spend more on sections, or can we use the money we're getting from the state to fund other kinds of needs that are available at PCC?
Okay, I'll come back to what you just said. Fund other things. Well, the main thing we're supposed to be funding is classroom instruction. And if the instructors have said, you know, we can better serve our students by having smaller classes here, that's an important consideration that we should be taking into consideration. We shouldn't be trying to say, well, just squeeze in as many as we can, and then we can spend the money on other stuff. We're supposed to be teaching students here.
Well,
Right,
that's part
but
of
the
it.
other part is we could also put in for growth money. So if we achieve our efficiencies, we could say to the chancellor's office, we would like to, help provide more access to students. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Real quick, yeah. We're gonna talk about good news here in a second in terms of the recommendations of how we might spend the $6.7 million. But in that conversation we had at cabinet the other day, we had deans raise their hands and say we need instructional equipment, not computer. We have other needs for instructional equipment. We had deans raise their hands and say we need more student assistant money, more college assistant money. You need more library books. You need periodicals. You need electronic research bases and what have you. That money has to come from somewhere. If we can strike, and this is what this committee should talk about, if we can strike an appropriate balance between number of sections based upon average enrollment of, say, 29, 30, 31, whatever that is, we then have more money to pay for everything else that this place needs, and it needs a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the deans were mentioning we've been in a holding pattern for around 3 years with instructional equipment. And so we have needs.
Okay, but I want to go back to, you know, what Dan was saying. The idea was there was that huge process there where it was decided what the normal limit should be, and that was a collaborative effort that was done. I don't think that should be set aside.
Respectfully, and I mean this truly, it's a negotiation issue between the district and the FA, and we really, it is what it is because it wasn't negotiated. And truthfully, we should never have dropped the NCNs in the first place until it was negotiated. So we are going back, we're doing what we need to do. We actually have a financial reason to do it for this one period in time, for this, you know, from basically January 1 through June 30th to recapture this revenue. What happens after that through this process, you know, will go. Nobody is disrespecting the work that everybody did.
Well,
sure.
If you just disregard it, it is disrespecting the work that was done.
Well,
sure.
But there are no, I disagree. We're not disrespecting it. We're making a decision based upon reality, other realities.
I have what is hopefully
other priorities.
Okay, without getting into the NCN discussion really, what was sort of the average drop? I mean, was it 1 student per class? Was it 2? What was the average sort of change?
Yeah, I think from this data, it does show one or 2 students.
So average the NC
But-
through the
but
NCN.
that
Hang on
can't
a
second,
be true
please.
because they had
Wait a
no
second, are you
cost-
talking about,
I'm
were
t-
we, like, our normal closing numbers, were we meeting our normal closing
No.
numbers or were we below?
I'm talking about, let's say we had NCNs of 30.
The
Okay.
And
primary
then on
impact,
average, we dropped down to NCNs of 25
Right.
or 28. So
the
what is that
primary,
average?
the primary impact was in English, social sciences, and natural sciences. In general, it was about 5 students, I think, for those impacted classes. So if the class was 35, it went to 30, 30 to 25, 45 went to 40. That kind. It was
think
on
English-
average, it was like 5
English had the most dramatic change.
as a division.
As a division. In case you want to know like how it went, that was the division that would be most impacted by this change.
Okay.
But this also, there were no LGIs offered, correct, in
Well-
the winter intercession?
Well,
And then-
there were a limited number.
This is
Yeah.
from summer and fall.
Yeah, the
I mean, that has had a
NCNs,
major
the
impact on
NCNs,
this.
the
This is
LGIs,
for summer
and
and
then the lack of headcount. So now, and by the way, on the headcount thing, we're not the only college that has felt this issue. I mean, colleges all around us, up and down the state, had the same, over 500,000 less students
Yeah.
aggregate, and I think it was from the fatigue issue, as Cynthia said. It's like the unemployment rate, right? They claim it's 10 point something, but it's really something higher than that because people gave up trying to find jobs. Same thing for people trying to go to college. They read so much and heard so much that there was no room in the inn because, Dave, there wasn't any room in the inn. And they just sort of checked out. And they did it in droves this year. And part of our problem, by the way, is we're now going to be competing for these thousands of students out there. So that's another issue we're going to have to contend with.
Even if you add, let's say, the 772 sections to get the FTEF, what guarantee are we going to get the students?
None, is what I just said. Yeah, you know, the point is, we're going to land, we think, somewhere between that 687 number, 650, 700. That's probably where we're going to land, but it's the LGIs, it's the
NCNs.
the getting the NCNs back up. It's the online that we're going to do. It's those types of things, and it's also the targeted classes, and that's basically the degree, the transfer, and the certificates. and the completion. And once Lancer Point is ready, we're going to be in that much better shape a year from now to be able to really understand what students need and schedule accordingly.
For the spring semester that we just, oh, fall, for the fall semester that we're in right now, what was our, it's probably a crystal question, but what was our capacity? I mean, I know that sometimes we hit that 98, 99, 100%. Would that not give us an indicator of how likely it is we'll meet?
We actually went 104% of our capacity, but the efficiency rate was much lower, and that's part that you know, the per section.
Okay. And so then what
I said 104. It was 103. I think.
Okay. And then as a follow-up, with this chart right here, if we were to keep the NCNs at the lower number, we would need the 772.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were not to bring the NCNs back up, we would need the 772. If we were to bring the NCNs back to where they were and they all filled, we'd only need the 529. So what I'm hearing is that maybe there's a compromise here that can be struck and try and find that sort of sweet 3.75
the NCN issue is a negotiation issue, so we can't really do anything about that.
But my point is just in general, when we're looking at the target outside of that, we just have to look at trying to get.
But Simon, we think this is very ambitious because of the lower head count. So we think in here is the realistic goal.
Okay. Does this include the increased LGIs?
Yes, everything.
Can we get a copy of this? Can you email out a copy of this presentation? I couldn't keep up on my notes all these hours.
I'm gonna allow
when it's ready.
I'm gonna allow Crystal to take a second glance at it.
Yeah.
She's on vacation right now. She's back on Monday, and then yes.
Yeah, and by the way, I would say that the incredibly hard-working group of people, Matt, Cynthia, Crystal, Brac, Klein, and Solomon Davila, have been burning the midnight oil, putting not only this plan together, but also the strategic enrollment management plan that we will be working towards. And we owe them all a debt of gratitude, and the deans are being advised of this and being very cooperative in terms of scheduling the classes that we need and what have you. Now let's talk for a second about the 12-week summer session and the plan for how we're going to mount what essentially will be 500 to 550, what are you thinking?
Yeah, we think probably 500 to 600 sections.
Right.
So what we need to do as a college, we will monitor our FTES and enrollment. Just yesterday, as an example, I believe we're at 67% filled. So we need to continue to monitor that and then make adjustments accordingly. So if we
It's
see that...
actually 84%.
84 now. See?
For spring?
For spring, right. So we need to continue to monitor it. And then if we see that we need to add more, we have room to add more, we could either do some more late start springs or add them for summer.
And the trick to this is we want to get these sections in so that in the summer, in order for this to work for 12-13, we have to collect the FTS prior to June 30th. So that means that the census date, which would be the first Monday after each one of the start dates of these classes, has to be before June 30th. So as we engineer this, schedule this, we'll make sure that these courses give us that census date prior to June 30th in order to capture this FTES for this year.
And I'd like to mention the benefits of having the opportunity to offer some late start springs is that students may get some letters back from their universities. November 30th is the application filing period deadline. So many students are scrambling, finishing their apps right now. But they may get a letter back in February stating, you need to do this 1 or 2 requirements before you can come. Or maybe you forgot that you had to do this. So if those students will present us that information, then we can help them get some late start classes. So we will monitor enrollment to see if we can help meet those needs as well.
Bob?
Joe?
Oh, I didn't know you were back.
I know. That original number, the 600 or so number you gave for the summer, what was the original?
Oh, last summer we offered 277 sections.
Okay.
In 2008, 2009, we had 580 sections.
Bob, did you indicate that you could do late start classes in the summer then? Because
Yeah.
as long as we get that first census in before June 30th.
Yeah, if you have a summer term of, say, 12 weeks, within that 12-week term, you can package things in whatever manner the faculty and the deans feel is appropriate pedagogically, all of that.
As long as the course starts before June 30th.
As long as the census is,
Or the census is covered.
for that period is before June 30th, so we can count it in 12-13.
Having the 500 or so in the summer is a pretty aggressive plan, but I was relieved to hear that we actually had that a couple of years ago. I was thinking about space.
Yeah.
You know, the summer school classes are more intense, and so they're going to be occupying the classrooms at a longer period of time than, say, a 16-week course. But if we did it 2 years ago, 500,
Yeah.
so I guess we could do it again.
We can,
Yeah.
plus we're thinking about weekend options. We're thinking about more hybrid and online type options,
And then offering classes out at high schools more.
and then off-site classes as well.
Will the Center for the Arts be up for summer?
The Center for the Arts will be done July 8th, but will not be available till fall.
But at least that will help. Well, would have helped alleviate some space problems. So going forward, it will help.
Yeah, we have 56,000 square feet of additional space that will come online that we have to figure out what we're going to do with. And we just had a very good discussion at the Academic Senate Forum on the schedule discussion. It was very good. And you know, one of the outcomes of this is probably going to be the need for some additional classroom space. And we'll have a way to do that.
You know, one thing that surprised me in this PowerPoint, I think was the previous slide that showed that there was a 1% decrease in first-time freshmen. With all our efforts for in-district high school students and with the first-year experience, why do you think that happened?
Oh, I think that's normal. I mean, Scott Lay, he, you know him from the CCLC. I attended a presentation that he gave last year, and he said that all colleges would begin to experience a decline in enrollment, and it's because in recruitment and enrollment management professions, we track populations. And so the age group of the population of students, they've already gone through. They called it in the profession Tidal Wave 1 and Tidal Wave 2. We've experienced the boom, and now we're going to be going into the lull. So that's a natural decline, but I will say that we did gain many more students from our own backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, that data looks really good.
Okay, I want to say first off, I think it makes wonderful sense to offer set classes that people actually need to earn a degree or certificate. And I think, gee, why didn't somebody think of this 75 years ago at Pasadena City College? But, so I'm glad that we finally have learned, you know, seen that's a priority. That being said, in nursing, our program is fall, spring, fall, spring. So during the summer for the RN program, anything the students would take would be an elective, okay? Now, I could give you lots of reasons why these courses we offer are wonderful enhancement to what they're doing and are putting them at a much better place when they graduate. I'm concerned that with this, those classes are never going to be offered because they're not required for their degree. Although myself and my peers would say they're very important.
I don't think that that's what the argument is being made. The argument is anything that helps our students meet their goals. And so if that is, whether it's an enrichment class, to put that kind of in quotes, right, that's still going to be offered if you guys can, if your division, department, program, pathway, etc., can say this is going to help a body of students meet an outcome. So I do, at least in the way that the structure and funding is.
Dave.
Yeah, we're getting a decrease in first-time students coming in and so forth, but we're graduating more students, which means that they're not going to be returning. Are we going to be hurting in the future?
Well, I think what Cynthia was just alluding to, but we are also doing a better job, and we're going to do even a better job of getting our own in-district students. You know, for example, our first-year experience program went from 300 students to roughly 800 students this year, and we're focused on 1,200 for next year. So that's going to help with that demographic trend by just going a little deeper into our own backyard. And that's primarily just the publics. We haven't even really pushed hard on the privates that are out there as well. And as we all know, there's a lot of private schools in our district.
And I would also say it would benefit us and the public to do some type of campaign to get people to come back and finish
Yes.
their degrees. Many students come and then leave for life reasons, but if we pushed a campaign to come back and finish, I think we could really help a lot of people that way.
You think so, especially at $46 a unit?
Maybe, you know, if there's financial aid available.
Well, when you consider what CSUs are now, UCs are, and my gosh, privates, 50, 60,000 or more. I mean, it's like, yikes. So there's a lot more quote unquote middle, upper middle class families that are looking at quality community colleges as very viable alternatives these days.
Well, and also almost all of the major grants that we've received that are program specific have an element of recruitment and outreach
Yes.
that are built into them in order to meet their grant, like their grant status. So whether it's STEM or design tech, they also have a mandatory outreach to bring folks in.
Yeah, we're doing that. Okay, so there's $6.7 million that, based upon this great work that this group and the faculty and the deans are doing, and I will ask that at the next Brac meeting, the Strategic Enrollment Management Plan presentation be made so that this group is educated about that as well. But there's $6.7 million that we need to budget. We need to take to the board in December how it is that we are going to be suggesting that we get the board's approval to basically augment our budget by $6.7 million. A good news story. There's three pieces of good news. Good news number one is 6.7 Prop 30.
Going to CNI.
Thank you very much, Cynthia and Matt and everybody else. Good news number two is because of the passage of Prop 30 and because of the growing better news in the state of California in terms of our economy.
We get this together, yeah.
The Prop 98 funding situation is going to start improving dramatically as well. For example, prior to Prop 30 passing, well, the system was owed, you heard me say this, $880 million, community college system. If Prop 30 didn't pass, we might have gotten 100 to 200 million of that over whatever period of time, who knows. Prop 30 did pass, the system now is going to get a guaranteed 400 to 500 million, and the money is going to be accelerated in terms of that, and that's all deferred Prop 98 money, not including any of the normal Prop 98. So all the community colleges are going to benefit from that, with more money coming in the door. And then finally, the whole state deferral situation, the money that's been deferred to us, that's going to be accelerated, and there's going to be more money coming into the door. So the really difficult days are behind us. It's not completely roses and everything is wonderful going forward, but it's certainly a much, much brighter picture. Okay, so with that said, Joe is going to pass around a draft of a document that was shared with at the President's Cabinet yesterday. And for those of you who don't know, the Cabinet is now an expanded body of the senior leadership of the college, many of our instructional and student support deans, our executive directors on the business and college services side of the house, and several other folks. So what you have there is a working group of people. So Joe, in consultation with myself, we created and ran by Dr. Rocha a proposed use of the what we just call the Prop 30 funds. So you'll see that we started with a balance of $6.7 million. We are allocating approximately $4.4 million to support some number of sections, somewhere between 600 and 700 sections. And you can read what those types of sections are and what they relate to. Again, in the Strategic Enrollment Management discussion, we'll talk more about pathways and things like that. The Student Access and Success Initiative activities have been very, very, very successful for this campus from an innovation point of view, and so we're suggesting that some additional monies go to that for research and development, professional development, online course development and training. An expansion of our veterans program. I'm sure many of you have heard that there's roughly 35,000 veterans projected to come back to California as a result of Afghanistan and Iraq finally being closed out. So we need to expand our services for that group. There's a discussion, and this is very important to say. This is discussion, because this all has to be negotiated. But there is a discussion about a possible salary increase that would be effective January 1 for all employees except executives and managers. And it's not because we don't like our managers. You may not like your executives, but I know. It's because by law the Prop 30 monies cannot be spent for administrators. So so that would be that. But anyway, that's just something there, and that's just a placeholder, and it would be approximately $400,000 in cost for that. We are talking about hiring 8 new faculty positions, which would be above the so-called full-time faculty obligation number, the FFON. We are now we're actually beyond our FFON by 3 or 4 positions, but we're still talking about adding 8 new positions back per a priority list as determined by the Academic Senate. Across Cultural Center, we have a growing number of students on this campus who need support in that regard, and there's been an urgent need for funding, so we'd like to try to support that. To deal with all these students and all their different needs and make sure they get where they need to get to and how they need to get there, we're talking about augmenting the counseling budget to that amount. Because the Pathways project, Pathways activities within the Teaching and Learning Center are basically exploding, we need more space for those students, and we need more equipment to support them and what have you. And then, as Cynthia referred to a little earlier, communications and outreach. Now we get back in the marketing business. We got to begin to pull students back into the college, so we're going to put a little bit of money towards that. The creation of the Centennial Master Plan, and then the accreditation of self-study support for participation, focused primarily on adjuncts, to try and provide a few dollars to help the adjuncts participate in our soon to kick off in a big way accreditation self-study activities. So this was a proposal that was given at Cabinet yesterday. The deans and others are kicking it around, and what I'd like to do is get the general feeling of the group today on this, get some input, and then Joe and I can take that back to the president and others. I'm sorry, Tom.
Cross-cultural center, what exactly do you mean?
So the cross-cultural center, so most community colleges across the state of California have a full-time position and cross-cultural center where folks can, particularly underrepresented, but really all students, do things like peer mediation and conflict resolution, support for LGBT, other groups. So for example, right now we're kind of piecemeal, like Ujima is in one place and Puente is in another place, but it would be more of a focused process. They also include like educational activities surrounding and supporting cultural needs of the community. So this is I have to say, this is really great, particularly for our underrepresented students, because we find that underrepresented students require additional support to get through effectively. There's a bunch of research out there that says having a designated place where people can go full-time, have this kind of access, actually increases their success rate because they feel supported on campus.
And one of the reasons I personally am supportive of this idea is because I've seen what's happened in the Teaching and Learning Center over the last, using that learning community model, using that that model that focuses very specifically on the needs of certain groups of students and what they are, plus having a place that you can leverage all these disparate things that are all over the campus and bring them more centralized. It really does increase success, retention.
So Simon really should talk to it also as a student.
Yeah, we have a cross-cultural center, which is essentially a room, and out of that room, the center is trying to do a whole bunch of great programs, but the facilities they have, the support they need from having a director it's not there. And speaking as an underrepresented student on the campus, this is something that we need. Without this, there are many people in my community, I'm part of the LGBT community, who do not have the support that they need on this campus. And partly that's just because of the lack of resources. And so it's absolutely essential that we're providing all of our students, especially those who are a little bit more at risk of dropping out, having problems, a space, a safe environment, and opportunities to grow and to educate themselves, and to really become a productive part of the community by succeeding and leading.
I'm a underrepresented member of an underrepresented group also. I don't know, I think this is kind of one of these feel-good things. I didn't feel like I needed a special place to go and commiserate with other people like me. I don't know. I think it's politically correct to have these things, and I think it's kind of a feel-good thing. I'm not sure it's
Well,
the best use of the money.
If I could make a recommendation, then that you check out the center and the programs that it's running. I don't think that it's a feel-good, let's all commiserate with each other and cry into each other's shoulders kind of program. It really is providing training, leadership opportunities, support, safety. These are things that our students desperately need.
Organizational development.
Absolutely, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Also some real nice instructional programs.
Mhm.
Some of the speakers, et cetera, who have come in here have really been outstanding, with a focus on cultural diversity that might otherwise be avoided.
And it's a broad perspective of cultural diversity. I'm going to argue
Absolutely.
this is not particularly
Right,
race-based.
definitely.
It really is a broad perspective.
Oh,
So.
it's really a great thing, in my opinion. But I do have a question about why. I mean, the hourly money was reduced.
Well, so let me say, because that was brought up yesterday as well. So Joe has a request out to there are 4 deans on that cabinet right now, and those deans are polling their colleagues about college assistant, student assistant monies, and also they're polling their colleagues on instructional equipment. So this will be tweaked and adjusted, likely, we'll see where we might be able to find some other additional funds. But we do need to take to the board by action a plan to augment the budget by $6.7 million.
I do have one question.
So the answer is yes, we'll get some.
The one thing that we mentioned at the last board meeting was more counselors. I mean, is that incorporated somewhere? Is that part of the full-time faculty, or so we are looking to use at least some of that for
That's a two-part.
counselors?
You'll notice that there's a two-part answer, which is the counseling support, which may be other kinds of, not necessarily full-time counselors, but other types of, so like Jeff, like those
Jeff.
kind,
Just
just
Jeff.
Jeff and all the folks that work in the kind of the one-stop advising, those kinds of folks. But they will also be considered for those full-time positions because our counseling is full-time teaching also.
Right, and so I guess my question is then, if one of the things that was mentioned with the faculty positions was the prioritization of where they should
Yes.
go. Will that be part of the plan that is presented to the board, what those priorities are? Do we know what those priorities are? How are we developing those?
You want to talk about how the academic senate does it, or you?
So I can tell you traditionally how the academic senate has done it is clearly it's based on need, right? What do we need to get students through? It's also based on historical hires. So for example, math and English pretty much have gotten a new hire every year forever, right? Like that has just kind of happened. But it's also other needs and program needs. So I'll take something like, in my division, our piano program, right? We haven't had a new hire in a very long time, and our program may be suffering for it, so we have to look at some of the other outreach and attention and retention data. What happens is the deans put together a proposal for what positions they need within their schools. Then it comes forward to a multidisciplinary committee of folks who then go through and based on that data aggregate that. I would argue that likely counseling will be a significant portion, although it will also have to be kind of looking at the college holistically.
Right, and if we wanted to tell that committee that at least some people think that we should have counselors, can we do that?
Thank you. I'll let people know since I'm on that committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Tom.
Okay, so as with our recommendation, certainly the bulk of the money should go to add sections. That's what the initiative was for, to do this. I think we should eliminate some things, and we should put forward a 3% staff increase effective in January 1st. If it's 400,000 to give 1.5, let's find another 400,000 and make a recommendation of 3%. We haven't had a cost of living raise in 6 years. I think it's reasonable to get a decent raise.
We can certainly share the information with the group, but again, all the raise part of it is all negotiable. So it's all got to be discussed.
Well, yeah, but except that administration can impose a raise if they want to.
Right, and there won't be any negotiations because the district imposed, we're at impasse, so we're going to PERB, and so there won't be any negotiations between now and January 1st.
With the FA.
With the FA, well, I don't know who else you're going to negotiate with, we represent the faculty.
But
So-
there are other people at this table who work for other, you know, with classified are here.
Well, right.
Yeah. I know you didn't mean that, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Simon.
Go before me.
Oh, John.
Oh, am I next?
Yeah.
Yeah, this sort of bends back to the public comments, which we don't want to open back up necessarily, but I don't see any mention of filling classified positions here. And I wonder if with Dr. Bell away, because he had things on his desk signed, in particular for a position in my area, but other areas of student services, is that getting the attention that it needs? And I know you're running both those areas, but I mean, we need plumbers for one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're-
We, again, this is an augmentation of an existing budget. There are positions in the budget that are being filled right now.
yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, with the additional Prop 98 monies and the additional deferral monies coming in faster, what have you, you know, it's conceivable that by the time we actually get into some serious discussions about the 13-14 budget, there may be more money to talk about, so we can backfill some of those positions even more rapidly than we're trying to do right now.
Well, that sounds good, but here we're definitely earmarking additional faculty positions, and you've already talked about 5, executive secretary positions. I just wonder why that's waiting for those additional Prop 98 and why it can't be included in this initial focus.
Well, actually, because one of the things that I heard at College Council yesterday was that as part of increasing sections, we would have to increase and we would have to fund some more of the classified positions as part of, because I'm seeing includes overload to faculty, increased adjuncts, benefits, supplies, and overhead. Would there not be an element of this 4,400 that includes classified as well?
I think that the answer to that question is there's two answers. One, when you do the math at $5,500, it's about $3.8 million,
Yeah,
right?
so there's
Okay.
a lot of excess.
But because of supplies and benefits and things like student assistance and things like you're talking about, Simon, there's some room in this to do other things as we need to do them. I can't tell you the number of emails I'm getting from divisions and department chairs, particularly health sciences. Tom, you must be something in the air over there right now, I'm not sure, about the need for additional staffing and additional this and additional that, and we are beginning to address those.
Well, then can I suggest that under that category we add maybe increases to includes overload to faculty, increased adjuncts, increased support staff as needed, just something that sort of adds acknowledges that what John's talking about should be part of that.
Yes, we'll do
That's what
that.
I'd like to
We'll definitely do that.
The eight new faculty positions, I know it may not be all faculty, but are they for the additional overloads here? The sections that you're going to be putting in?
Well, they're going to be new faculty positions as prioritized by the Academic Senate, as approved by the Superintendent President, as approved by the Board of Trustees,
Right, but
to
will
teach
they-
whatever it is those disciplines are.
Right,
It-
but
what
will
the-
they be in place by January 1st though? When they
No. These are,
We get to start the hiring
Right.
process starting January now, once the decisions are made
Okay,
about
so
what.
they may not even be teaching in the fall then.
no, they would definitely be teaching in
In
the
the
fall.
fall.
They would. You see, again, this is an interesting and I think the right thing to do, in the sense that even though we're at our full-time faculty obligation number now, even though we're beyond that number, this college believes so much in the need for full-time tenured permanent faculty that we are going to continue to hire faculty, because we're all, our primary mission is teaching, and you need faculty to teach, and permanent faculty provide a greater level of continuity than adjuncts do. So we're suggesting a commitment to that. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
so do you want us to say that we love this, or do you want us to say, no, this is how, this is how I think we should modify it and submit it back to them and say, this is what the Brac committee recommends.
What I would like, first of all, I felt it was important to share this with Brac today, and again, it's fresh right off the machine here. If this body wants to take a formal action, accepting, modifying, rejecting, you can do that. We've heard some comments, so we'll add the the student support thing, for example. We are going to be addressing the student assistant, college assistant thing. The deans will make sure they cover that. There will be likely something about instructional equipment. That'll be part of this. If there's something else specific that you want to
I'd
add.
like to move to formally endorse adding after increased adjunct, increased support staff.
I'll second.
Say that again.
So in the first section, includes overload to faculty, increased adjuncts, increased support staff.
So that modified language in that section.
So we don't have an amount to put across from that?
The amount's just as is, and then it just gets split.
And the other thing, I appreciate that, but I'll just comment this. The classified unit is being vocal on this topic, whether it's the issue CFT or CSA. I mean, we hear that, and we will continue to hear that and understand that.
Okay.
And again, this is a $6.7 million piece of what will be the bigger discussion going forward.
And if I can just speak to why I think that this is the plan that we should adopt. Proposition 30, as you know, the Associated Students worked incredibly hard to get Proposition 30 passed. And the promise of that was increased access, support, and success for students in the community college system. So when we went out and campaigned as hard as we did for as long as we did and got that vote out, we said that this is what it would be used for. I think this is a good representation of what it should be used for. Access, support for success. Increases to allow for the staffing where needed. I think that it is a balanced approach to everything that this campus needs to do with this money, and this is what we voted for Proposition 34.
Yeah, I would like to add into it that we could look into additional counselors or some kind of counseling help for the student. Somewhere either in the faculties or the counseling support area. I think that's critical, because that's a lot of what the students are saying, especially in the clubs, is that they don't have access to the counselors.
So perhaps just to include counselors under the FON, is that necessary?
I think that message is heard. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, isn't that part of support staff? Can you
Counselors? No, counselors are
Counselors are
faculty
faculty.
positions. Yeah.
So it's actually covered. It's definitely covered in the category counseling support, and Pinella is saying that counseling positions will get likely be greatly considered.
It's done by committee, right? The ranking, it's a ranking process based on those criteria that I said, and it's done by that committee process. So I can't necessarily impose. I can make a recommendation to the committee based on what we just decided. I'm going to say with 98% likelihood there will at least, I would suspect there'll be a counseling position.
So you're saying that if we were to even add under that line to include counselors, the academic senate could in theory just be like, but they're not likely to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on
So, but the point is that it wouldn't have any effect, but the board would probably hold it,
Right.
because the board of trustees is aware that we need more counselors as well.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And it's better to add it, even though it may not get filled, than not to add it, and then we'll say, well, they approved something like this without the additional counselors.
Ken?
Yeah, I was going to say that I would support that, because I think when people think of faculty, think of the classroom faculty, and they forget. In fact, this whole discussion is like, let's bring them back into it. So I think there's just general assumption that we're not really talking about counselors. But we should, if you state it in here, then it gives at least some acknowledgement
Right.
in writing. And that, I think, really helps in the discussions.
And to also argue in another, just to make aware that one of the issues that's being dealt with the Academic Senate right now is faculty reorganization, and part of that would help full-time faculty go through a counseling training process so they would be more effective academic advisors. And so when we talk about counseling, I want to be aware of the fact that counselors that we see over there do one type of counseling, but that faculty also share a load in that, and they require training to do that better.
And we have to be a little careful, because librarians are faculty, counselors are faculty, Tom's faculty, John's faculty when he teaches, when he teaches.
Quick, save it.
I thought you were making an announcement.
No, there's a term called faculty. If we define it here, if we said faculty, counselors, and librarians, we're almost not right? Am I get?
Yeah. Well,
So I think we just have to take it on faith that
faculty
they
is
get
included
it.
in the faculty process.
Yes.
Alivo can apply
And
for
she
a
will.
position to the academic senate, just like every other dean, and
I think
then
they got
they'll make their
3
recommendations.
counselors last time.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I know they got 2, they might have
Yeah,
got 3.
2 or 3.
Plus,
I
there's
guess-
the emergence of new counseling positions that are not under these different divisions, the instructional designers,
That's right.
and those are important new positions
Exactly.
that don't really have a voice unless it's in the development area.
And what I'm hearing though is that there's concern from a couple people that just by leaving it without saying it, it's as though Brac has sort of ignored it, as opposed to leaving it on faith, because maybe not everyone's going to be aware of the conversation that we've had in Brac.
Well, the minutes, maybe we can say the minutes will reflect.
Is
this
there a
wrong
way
better.
that if we could sort of, between
Well-
the two positions, say, recommended to include
You know,
specifically?
I have
I'm
no
just
idea
wondering.
how many counselors they have over there. I have no idea what their workload is. I have no idea what their needs are. I don't feel comfortable saying, you know, like, making this strong statement that we need more counselors, because I don't know what they have. I don't know what their needs
We
are.
have 1 to every 1,800 students, is it?
Well, but I, if you don't,
think we're at
I had to
15 now.
personally, and I apologize, but I've got a 4 o'clock interview that I've got to go to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to see if we can.
We can table this until our.
Well, no, I'd like to see if we can call the question on, if I may, on this with the one addition that we made, and see if we can at least get some agreement on this, because I think it would be important for this group to make a statement, as Simon was stating here. Generally speaking, this is okay, or you know, or what's the better word? Not essentially, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not generally, not essentially, but something that's really close.
Okay, that whatever that one is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What's the reason that it has to go to this board meeting here in December? I mean, what's the rush here? I mean, this is the first time we're looking at this, and I'm just asking.
Right. Because of the very short timeline that we've got to try to catch up with what we've got to catch up, we need to get a determination from the board as to how to spend this money. And since the lion's share of it is essentially going into classes and what have you, and it's just. I just think we need to get this done so we can all move on and do other things we have to do to actually make it happen. Gary.
Because you don't have eyes behind your head, Julio has his hand up.
Oh.
I just had a quick question, comment on TLC. Because I was aware that they do have funding as far as grants and stuff. I wasn't made aware that you guys were expanding the program. In other words, you guys got a huge grant for TLC and...
You can't use it for construction projects or of anything major like that.
All right, I just wanted to check, because, I mean, you guys got a grant to do something bigger and grander, but you guys didn't plan for...
But again, the bigger and the grander is tied to the whole first year experience and bringing in more
And
students
the thing
and
about
completing
grants is
more
they're
and
one-time
all of
deals.
our
They're not
underrepresented
budget
populations.
items. It goes away.
I mean, it's really resulting in a lot of completion stuff.
As
I know you gotta go, and I know you would like us to give a blessing to this.
Or not, if that's-
Okay,
you know.
okay, and I like what I see in it, but I also like all the other things that you said, yeah, you were gonna do that, don't worry about this and that, and I like that. But we haven't even talked about some other things like staff development in the year of the greatest most profound technology development this campus will ever see probably this year. And we have a lot of talk about e-portfolios, multimedia projects, and of course Banner, and there it is right where...
There it is right there.
Where did I miss it?
380,000 R&D, professional development, the Student Access and Success Initiative, all the...
That's what that is?
This is augmenting by $380,000.
Okay.
So it's there.
think it's a
Can I call the question? Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, call the question.
Mary's not here though to take note.
Okay, so can someone else take notes? No, you're a
Oh, I was
multifaceted,
gonna say, I'm just
skilled
gonna go see if I
individual.
can grab Mary real quick. That's my answer.
Now, are you gonna make a few adjustments on this though, even if we say we like it in general?
No, the only...
I mean, is
go
there a
ahead.
final that's gonna come out of this?
The one adjustment is that we're going to add, after includes overload to faculty, increase to adjuncts, we're going to include the 3 words increase support staff.
And that could be hourly and classified?
I know.
But John, you have to understand too, whether we vote for this or against it, in the past, to be honest with you, we voted against things that the board then just went ahead and did.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We all understand that, and I don't
Okay.
even know that
So I
in
just-
that
I didn't
case
want
we
to
need
get
to vote. We don't necessarily need to
Well,
vote.
you know,
Why would we want to vote?
Well, because there's a question on the table.
God bless us. I'm going to go back to the students. There is a question on the table, but you guys have Management Association gets to meet and confer with the administration on a bunch of issues. Classified has issue CSEA. Faculty has the PTCFA. Who do the students have? This table. So as far as shared governance goes, this is our table. We don't have PERB. We don't have other options. So even though you may think that it doesn't matter, for students it matters because this is our only voice in the process.
Yeah.
So that is why
it would be
I think
nice
that it is important that we have the discussion.
If the body takes a vote today, and the question's been called, so we will vote. One of two things will come out of this. Either I will report to the Dr. Rocha that Brac took an action, yay or nay, or I report that Brac chose not to take an action, but we had a thorough discussion of the document, a good, healthy discussion of the document. Either one is probably fine, but I want to make sure that Brac saw it. So if Brac chooses to take an action, this is your choice. So with that said, can I call the question?
What is the motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was
Does someone want to state the motion?
So the motion is to endorse the proposed use of funds with an amendment to line item 1 to include support staff.
Increased support
Increased
staff.
support staff.
After increased staff.
That's right?
Yes.
That sounds
Good
good.
job.
Okay.
Good job. All right. So we've heard the motion. It was
Simon called it. I seconded it.
right. There you go. And so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed? No.
Abstentions.
Abstain.
Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3 abstentions, 1 no.
Opposed.
How many? Let's do this. Let's count the ayes. 1, 2. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? So if I'm counting right, 5 yes, 3 abstentions, and 1 no. Okay. I apologize.
Can we take those?
Yes.
Well then,
I don't know, budget 101.
let's talk about that. Joe, do you care? They take them and then bring them back for the next meeting?
I don't. That's fine.
Okay, good.
So this,
Go
for
ahead,
the next
please.
meeting, we can do the presentation, but we were asked to do just a very high-level kind of budget introduction to Budget 101. So this is really self-explanatory. Marie did this before she went on vacation. Susan Wagner, who joined us because she was going to help me in case I tripped a little bit. But please look at it. Let me know if you have questions. More than likely, it may answer the questions that you may have had. If not, and you have questions, please let me know what they are so we can address them in the next meeting.
So we'll go over the presentation at the next meeting. Plus, we'll talk about strategic enrollment management if that's okay with everybody.
And that
Danny.
future budget,
Future
future
agenda.
agenda item, thank you.
Yeah, you said we were gonna
About
do
those
Uh,
executive salaries.
And what is
Penelope,
executive
talk to me.
assistants? And-
Okay.
Very
so-
short,
whatever
but yes.
else. Okay.
When is the next Brac?
The next Brac is
before Christmas.
In finals.
Okay, final reading.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone.